Welcome to Revenge Return, where love is never simple, revenge is never accidental, and every story unfolds with secrets, betrayal, and emotional twists you won't see coming. This is where the story begins. The call came from Mark Chin, a real estate attorney I'd never heard of. Mr. Harrison, I represent the Kowalski family. They're under contract for a mountain property at 4847 Ridgeline Drive. Your property. Your father represented himself as the owner. I need to understand what's happening here before I advise my clients whether to pursue fraud charges. I was in Denver for a conference, 300 miles from the cabin I'd bought 4 years ago with my software consulting income. The cabin Dad apparently thought he could sell. My father did what? Listed it 19 days ago. Full listing on Zillow, realtor.com, professional photos, stage descriptions, open houses every Sunday. My clients made an offer. $695,000 cash 7-day close. Your father accepted yesterday. We're in escrow. Then my title company pulled the actual deed. The hotel room tilted. The deed showing my name. Only my name. Correct. Sole owner since December 2019. No co-signers, no trust structures, nothing. Which means your father committed real estate fraud, and his realtor friend Gregory Walsh facilitated it without basic verification. My clients want blood. The real estate board will be very interested. And depending on what your father signed, we're potentially looking at criminal charges. I sat on the hotel bed. Outside, downtown Denver sparkled in afternoon sun. How many showings? 17. Your father conducted them personally, represented himself as owner, signed disclosure documents as legal seller. Walsh never requested ownership proof. Never ran a preliminary title check. Professional negligence so egregious it's almost impressive. What happens now? My clients could sue for substantial damages, inspection costs, appraisal fees, earnest money, emotional distress. Your father and Walsh are legally exposed on multiple fronts. I'm required to report this to the real estate board regardless. But I wanted to speak with the actual owner first. I thought about Dad's comment last month. That cabin sits empty. Waste of perfectly good property. I thought he meant I should visit more. I'd been spectacularly wrong. Give me 48 hours, I said. I need to consult an attorney. I hired Sarah Brennan, a real estate attorney in Boulder. She reviewed the listing, signed disclosures, purchase agreement, and Dad's representations within 6 hours. Your father signed seller disclosure documents under penalty of perjury, Sarah explained. Represented clear title, no liens, legal authority to sell. All provably false. The realtor, Gregory Walsh, had a professional duty to verify ownership before listing. He didn't. This is textbook fraud with professional negligence. What did my father collect? $15,000 in earnest money, currently held in escrow. I pulled his email correspondence with Walsh through discovery requests. They discussed commission splits. Walsh expected $40,800 on the $680,000 sale. Your father thought he'd net approximately $620,000 after closing costs and fees. I'd purchased the cabin for $340,000 4 years ago. Mountain property values had climbed steadily. Dad saw retirement funding where I saw sanctuary. Did he think it was family property? Worse. He knew it wasn't. His emails reference getting David on board after closing and presenting him with the accomplished deal. He planned to forge your signature on transfer documents if necessary. This wasn't confusion. This was calculated. The room went silent except for traffic noise filtering through the window. What are my options? Full prosecution. Criminal fraud charges, forgery, conspiracy if we prove Walsh knew. Civil suits for damages, intentional infliction of emotional distress. Or we handle this with strategic pressure. Consequences without complete destruction. Your decision entirely. I thought about family dinners, childhood camping trips to this mountain region before I could afford property. Then I thought about Dad's phrase, getting David on board. I thought about 17 families walking through my home, strangers touching my books, my furniture, my private space while I was working 300 miles away. Something crystallized. I want every document. Everything they signed, everything they said, every email. Sarah requested all materials the next morning. Gregory Walsh's office complied within 4 hours. Once she mentioned real estate board involvement, cooperation became instant. I spent 2 days reading correspondence between Dad and Walsh. Dad, David rarely uses it. Empty 11 months a year. He won't even notice until money's already distributed. Walsh, I'll need ownership documentation for the file before listing. Dad, Greg, it's family property. You've known me 32 years. Trust isn't enough. Walsh, fair point. Listing goes live Tuesday morning. No verification. No title search. 3 decades of friendship apparently substituted for professional standards. Walsh had sent detailed recap emails after each showing. Silicon Valley couple, loved the deck and mountain views. Family from Chicago, concerned about winter road access but very interested. Cash buyer from Austin, ready to close immediately. 17 showings. 17 groups of strangers in my space. The cabin where I'd written code, finished client projects, found silence away from Denver's noise, turned into a real estate showcase without my knowledge or permission. The Kowalskis' earnest money sat frozen in escrow. Dad couldn't provide clear title, so funds couldn't transfer. The buyers had already paid $600 for inspection, $450 for appraisal, and taken 3 days off work for their planned closing. Sarah filed formal complaints with the Colorado Real Estate Board against Walsh. Failure to verify ownership, facilitating fraud through negligent practice, violation of professional standards. The board opened investigation within 72 hours. Then she drafted demand letters. To Dad, immediate return of all earnest money, full reimbursement to the Kowalskis for expenses, written admission of fraudulent representation, permanent surrender of any claim to the property. To Walsh, reimbursement to the Kowalskis, withdrawal from this transaction, complete cooperation with board investigation. Dad called 90 minutes after receiving his letter. This is absolutely insane. I was helping the family financially. By committing real estate fraud? It just sits there, David. You barely use it. I use it constantly. I was there 3 weeks ago. You listed it while I was at a work conference. Your mother and I could really use that money. You know retirement isn't cheap these days. There was not family unity. Not shared resources. Retirement funding extracted from my asset through fraud. You forged disclosure documents, Dad. You collected earnest money under false pretenses. You cost the Kowalskis over $1,000 in wasted expenses. Walsh might lose his license. Greg will be fine. We're old friends. This will blow over. Greg facilitated fraud because he trusted you instead of doing his actual job. That's not friendship. That's liability he'll be paying for through increased insurance premiums. Long silence. Then, you'd really press criminal charges? Against your own father. I thought about the ghost ledger, years of items I could invoice if family relationships worked on transactional principles. Dad borrowing my truck and returning it empty 14 times. Family helps family. Mom asking me to skip my college graduation ceremony to help with their garage sale. It's just walking across a stage. Dad promising to feed my dog Max during a business trip, forgetting completely, neighbor finding Max after 2 days. He's fine. Don't be so dramatic. Every incident followed identical structure. Take my resources, dismiss my reaction, frame me as unreasonable for objecting. I'm not pressing charges yet, I said carefully. I'm enforcing legal boundaries. Your choices determine what happens next. The real estate board moved efficiently. Walsh received formal reprimand and $5,000 fine for negligent practice. His professional insurance premiums would increase substantially, likely costing him $15,000 annually for the next 5 years. Every prospective client would now see he'd facilitated fraud through inadequate verification. Dad was required to sign a notarized affidavit admitting fraudulent ownership representation, return the full earnest money amount, and pay the Kowalskis' documented expenses totaling $1,650. The affidavit would be filed with the county clerk, permanent public record. He resisted for 8 days. Sarah mentioned criminal fraud charges involving amounts over $15,000 carried potential jail time even for first-time elderly offenders. He signed within 3 hours. I sent a formal cease and desist letter to my parents, drafted by Sarah, delivered by process server. No access to any property I own. No financial discussions involving my assets. No assumptions about family property rights. Future contact would be documented and could be used in legal proceedings if necessary. Mom called it unnecessarily cruel. He made one mistake. Family is supposed to forgive. Family is supposed to respect legal ownership, I replied. Family doesn't commit fraud and expect forgiveness to erase consequences. She hung up. I didn't call back. 4 months later, I sit on my cabin deck with morning coffee, watching sunrise illuminate the valley in shades of gold and copper. The air smells like pine and Cold Creek water. Inside, my laptop waits. Client code to review, systems to debug, deadlines to meet. The cabin is mine. Legally, practically, permanently mine. The title is clear, the deed recorded, the ownership absolutely undisputed. Dad thought empty meant available. He saw vacancy and called it waste. He never understood that emptiness was precisely the point. Space to think, silence to hear my own thoughts, solitude to create without interruption. I didn't need the cabin filled with family. I needed it protected from them. Walsh lost 5 clients after the board's decision became public record. Dad faces questions at the golf course, awkward conversations at the hardware store. Small mountain towns specialize in gossip. Mom stopped calling after I didn't attend Thanksgiving. My sister texted asking why I was punishing everyone over a simple misunderstanding. I forwarded her the email chain. She hasn't mentioned it since. The Kowalskis found another property and sent a handwritten thank you note for resolving things professionally. They'd considered a lawsuit but appreciated the quick settlement. I changed every lock. Installed a comprehensive security system with cameras, motion sensors and instant phone alerts. Anyone who approaches now, I'll know immediately. The property isn't sitting empty. It's sitting mine. Protected, secure, undisputedly mine. And that distinction makes all the difference.